So in our discussion on enhanced port mirroring for vSphere distributed switches, we're going to put the focus on enhanced and not on the port mirroring part. I'm going to assume that you already understand port mirroring, at least to some degree. You may use port mirroring for your intrusion detection system to get the network packets to flow toward it so that you can examine the packets and so that you're not in the stream. You may use it for troubleshooting so you can get data and not have to be part of the data that you're getting. There's a lot of different reasons that port mirroring is used in networks. You may have seen it implemented as Cisco's SPAN. So I think you understand a little bit about port mirroring. And port mirroring isn't new to 5.1, but there are some new features in regards to port mirroring. They give you more options in 5.1 than you had in 5.0. So what we're going to do is take a look at what's new, right, from 5.0 to 5.1, and then later we'll take a look at what's new from 5.1 to 5.5. As you remember, when we were setting up the switch to begin with, this was one of the features, the enhanced port mirroring, that was new from 5.0 to 5.1. So what's new about it? And what does it allow you to do? Well, the best way to see that is, again, to take a look at the configuration to see what VMware tells us from the dialog boxes in the configuration. So I'm in the networking view now, and I'm clicked onto the vSphere distributed switch, and I'm on the Manage tab and the Settings tab. So now I'm going to click on the port mirroring link. When I click on the port mirroring link, I have this green plus sign that says New. So I'm going to click on him. And it says, okay, select the session type. What type of port mirroring session do you want to create? Well, let's start at the bottom here because it's interesting. It says Distributed Port Mirroring Legacy. What does legacy mean? Legacy means unenhanced. Right? It's the one we had before. And it sounds good. It says you can mirror network traffic from a set of distributed ports to a set of distributed ports or uplink ports. Okay, that's what I need, right? For my intrusion detection system or for troubleshooting, that's what I need. Okay, what it doesn't tell you is that those have to be on the same host. That your source and your destination virtual machines that you're doing this with have to remain on the same host. And that if vMotion is used, right, whether you use it or DRS uses it to move one of the virtual machines from one host to another, it breaks it. So that means that your intrusion detection system had better stay where it is. And that means that when you're troubleshooting, you better make sure that whatever you're troubleshooting stays in the same place as well if you're using the port mirroring for part of that. So as you can see, that gives you limited capability, right? Issues could arise from that. So now let's take a look at your other options. If we go up here to the top, it says distributed port mirroring again, but it doesn't say legacy. So what's the difference? Well, you notice it says I can mirror traffic from a set of distributed ports to another set of distributed ports. And it doesn't say uplink ports. Just regular virtual machine distributed ports. And I could mirror traffic from one set to another. Okay, what is it not telling me? Well, what it's not telling me is that in order for the port mirroring to actually work, the source and the destination have to be on the same host. And you say, well, how is that different than legacy? Well, here's the difference. If the source and the destination both move from one host to another and end up on the same host again, then port mirroring will work again. As long as they both move. So that could give you more opportunity, right? If you knew that that's what you were going to do is move two different systems from one host to another, but you wanted to keep up the port mirroring. It'll temporarily stop it, but it'll re-enable it on the other side. As a matter of fact, the key is that as long as you're using non-uplink ports, just regular virtual machine ports, then these kinds of things will work. And you say, well, what if I wanted it to happen, be able to happen across hosts? Well, you could use the remote mirroring source or remote mirroring destination. Remote mirroring source is network traffic from a set of distributed ports to uplink ports, and remote mirroring destination is traffic from VLANs to distributed ports. Okay, now you can use those, and if you select just uplink port or just non-uplink ports, they'll work. In other words, it'll continue to work across the hosts. Even if the virtual machine is vMotion to another host, the port mirroring will still work in between the hosts. But that's not really what they're for. If you were to select, for example, on remote mirroring, if you were to select an uplink port, okay, or a remote mirroring source to select an uplink port, or a remote mirroring destination to select a specific VLAN, then that breaks that. Then vMotion doesn't work. So you've got these complex compatibility issues, but the way that I sort them out is this. If it is a non-uplink distributed port, then these kinds of things can work. As long as the virtual machines, on the first one, as long as they end up on the same host together again, then the port mirroring works. And on the ones in the middle, as long as you select non-uplink ports, the port mirroring will continue to work even if it's on different hosts. So play with it in your own network. Okay, for the test, just focus on the fact that the non-uplink distributed port source and destination, that's the key to making it work and continue to work. Okay, these other options give you more flexibility, but if you're using a source or a destination as an IP address or a VLAN or an uplink type of port, then that breaks vMotion. In other words, that breaks port mirroring if you vMotion. So hopefully that clarified some of what that enhanced port mirroring is all about. And what I would just know is those differences, and like I said, what breaks vMotion and what doesn't, just in case that comes up in real life or on the test. Now the next thing that we're going to talk about is link aggregation control protocol, and what you might use it for and how you might configure it in your network and on your systems. That's next.